Colorado's cases of COVID-19 quickly grow. Not surprising, though we did not expect local health leaders to contradict the CDC. There are plans to keep language barriers from standing in the way of sharing smart advice about coronavirus. A fine for the oil refinery that showered Denver in ash. It's the equivalent of a speeding ticket. Colorado's Republican Party chairman accidentally makes a point about how not to handle a gun as he dares Democrats to come and take it. And if this week has been trash for you too, raise your hoof. Next. We are seeing the expected growth in the number of COVID-19 cases in Colorado, up quickly to 8 today after just the first case yesterday. And this is why testing matters, because Colorado was not going to find cases if it wasn't testing very many people. There is no indication that any of those 8 people are seriously sick. Most people who get COVID-19 are going to be just fine. The goal, again, is to protect vulnerable people, our older neighbors, people with health issues, respiratory problems. And that's why it's discouraging that Denver's public health leaders are directly contradicting advice from the CDC on how people at risk should protect themselves.
But people don't need to start staying at home. They should be aware of, if they're in close contact with somebody who's coughing or sneezing, they should remove themselves from that situation. They should wash their hands with soap and paper towels before they eat, before they touch their face, their nose, their mouth, their eyes. That's critical here. And I want to stress that.
So that contradicts the CDC guidance that older Americans and people with chronic health issues like heart, lung, or kidney disease should, quote, stay at home as much as possible, end quote. The CDC says those same at-risk folks should limit close contact in public and avoid crowds. So we directly again asked Bob McDonald, head of Denver's Department of Public Health.
Even if they're more prone to it, older, have chronic disease, anything like that?
Yeah, well, again, there are levels of risk here. And so there's just a blanket statement that should older people stay home and not leave their house. I would not provide that guidance at this point.
And McDonald later more specifically said directly that he disagrees with the CDC's guidelines for at-risk groups. We'll discuss that more in a moment. So let's talk about those new cases today. Bear in mind, we have yet to see community transmission, the virus spreading amongst people in Colorado. All 7 cases, or 8 cases rather, are believed to have originated outside of Colorado. There's a man in his 40s in El Paso County, a woman in her 70s who came home to Denver from traveling internationally. Another case in Denver is a 40-year-old guy whose child goes to St. Anne's Episcopal School, and the school sent students home early with their parents today if they learned about the connection to that case. Both those Denver patients are in isolation. Now, isolation does not mean quarantine. Isolation is when you're sick and you're being kept away from other people so you don't get them sick. Quarantine is for people who might have been exposed but are not sick at that point. We are curious, though, what keeps people in quarantine and isolation from violating those orders?
People could be subject to up to 300 days in jail or a fine.
If they don't do it.
If they don't comply.
Or, you don't have a security guard outside their door, right?
Correct.
There's another state today stepping in to prevent people from getting huge medical bills associated with COVID-19 testing and treatment. But we still cannot get an answer from Democratic Governor Jared Polis about whether he is considering doing that in Colorado. Washington State's insurance commissioner announced yesterday an emergency order to health insurers. It requires insurance companies to waive copays and deductibles for anybody who needs testing or treatment for the virus. We told you that New York has also ordered insurance not to bill people for going to the ER, urgent care, etc. All the warnings, all the advice from health experts, they only work if people understand them. Arnusha Roy has a look at spreading the word in languages other than English.
Navong Sandoval can't shake the unease of what's happening around the country.
And there have been major incidences in major U.S. cities that are directly tied into COVID-19. There are people who have been denied lodging in certain states. There have been people who have been harassed.
Because she says that unease is being felt locally too. And as a community activist had an ask today.
To set the example and be the example for the state of Colorado as well as the nation that this behavior will not be tolerated.
That ask was matched by the governor, who visited businesses Monday, saying it's important to support the Asian American community. Long Sandoval said that includes making sure everyone understands the conversation around COVID-19.
I would like to see the language that are mostly spoken in in Colorado, whether it be Vietnamese or other languages.
The state health department website can be translated into nearly 60 languages online, including Vietnamese.
Switch to Armenian.
The city of Denver's website can be translated into more than 100, but they realized there was more they can do.
Right now we have Spanish. We're working on Vietnamese, Arabic, and Somali.
Along with English, that covers the most common languages in Denver. Videos in American Sign Language went up in the last few hours. More in other languages were in the works this afternoon. And as we were doing the interview, the city was printing posters for city and county buildings and could share them with restaurants and businesses in the future.
We had the materials ready in multiple languages, meaning Spanish, English, and ASL. We're just opting up a little bit more, expanding our reach. We can always grow and get better, and that's what we're doing right now.
So we're actually seeing that same expansion at other health departments like Tri-County. Boulder County is working with community partners to reach as many people as possible. And both the governor's office as well as the city of Denver said that when they do hold a press conference, there will be someone who will be doing sign language. And the city of Denver said they will also have somebody who speaks Spanish as well available for additional interviews afterwards.
So when we think about barriers to communication, language is one barrier and culture is another barrier.
Yeah, so actually the Custer County Public Health Department said that their minority community is the Amish community. So they have reached out to Amish leaders and have actually been going door to door to visit with people, others who may not be coming into town, to make sure they know what's going on and are prepared and know about the hygiene as well.
It's great that the experts are thinking about these things, not the first thing that a lot of folks might think of. All right, thank you, Anusha. All right, so let's take a step back and consider today's COVID-19 news in Colorado with some perspective. We are where we expected to be. I mean, this is why days ago we were talking about changing our behaviors as if the coronavirus was here, because it was here. You really have to avoid the temptation to look at the map of cases and say, well, you know, it's not in my county yet, not in my city yet. That's trading a false sense of security for time that you could better spend gaining the peace of mind that comes from practicing preparation. Hand washing, not touching your face, skipping handshakes, cleaning surfaces, avoiding sick people, preparing to spend some time hunkered down at home if it comes to that. And with all due respect to the Denver health officials who disagreed today, I would be going with the CDC guidance for older and at-risk people to stay home when possible and to avoid crowds when out. I get that that will have a negative economic impact, but if you're in those at-risk categories, your health has value too. Just remember, preparation is not panic. It's the opposite. People near the Suncor energy plant were not dreaming of a gray Christmas, but they got it when stuff started raining down from the sky around the refinery in Commerce City late last year. The particulates covered cars and houses. And today, state environmental regulators charged Suncor for the trouble. Something tells me Suncor's bank account's going to barely notice. $9 million. That's what Suncor will pay for showering its neighbors in ash in December. $9 million. It's a tiny blip for Suncor. It's the equivalent of the average Colorado household paying a speeding ticket. I'm serious. In 2018, the company made nearly $3.3 billion in profits. $9 million is about 0.1% of that. The median household income in Colorado that year was $68,811. The comparable fine for that Colorado household would be about $185, or a little less than a ticket for going 20 over the speed limit in your Suncor ash-covered car. It's a gorgeous car, though. Oil and gas employs 90,000 Coloradans. It's a booming industry in a state with a governor and a Democratic legislative majority that want to restrict traditional energy development. And you got to bear in mind that Bernie Sanders just overwhelmingly won our Democratic primary. Sanders wants to ban fracking totally. Imagine what that would do to the industry. Our Marshall Zellinger met with the head of one of the country's top oil and gas organizations to ask about his view of the future.
This is the view from the Colorado office for American Petroleum Institute. It overlooks the state capitol, where lawmakers and Governor Jared Polis have made oil and gas development more difficult with stricter health and safety requirements. Those new rules did not stop the head of API, who was in town from Washington, D.C., from meeting with the governor.
Do you think he hates oil and gas development?
No, I do not. In fact, my experience with Governor Polis is that he is for growth, and he understands the importance of this industry in Colorado. This industry provides about $1 billion of revenue that goes to schools and public safety every single year. And we know what the governor's priorities are. It's to fund schools and to fund health care. And you can't do it without oil and gas revenue.
As president of API, Mike Summers helps the oil and gas industry lobby for favorable laws and candidates and fight against those who might restrict oil and gas activity, like Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, who wants to ban fracking by 2025. In an interview with Kyle last month, Sanders explained how he would take care of Colorado workers whose jobs he'd make disappear.
Income for 5 years, job training, education, health care. So those workers are not our enemies. It's not their fault that climate change is threatening the planet.
Let me tell you, if you talk to one of the producers, one of the people who's actually working in the oil fields of Colorado, they're pretty insulted that they need to be retrained. These are some of the highest paid jobs in the state, and we want to make sure that they stay here.
As part of his visit, Summers toured the extraction oil and gas facilities in Broomfield, just south of the Northwest Parkway and west of I-25. Here's Summers' advice on how to handle any of your health and safety concerns.
If you go to any of these production sites, ask them to show you the air that they're monitoring, the noise that they're monitoring.
I talked to an extraction spokesman who doesn't recommend showing up unannounced at the gate to check the quality of the air and noise. The state monitors air and noise. The city of Broomfield for those extraction sites monitors air and noise, and so does extraction. This is Broomfield's website. It's kind of interactive. I'm just showing you this, that it exists. It's Ajax Analytics. You can click on any of the current sites. We're not going to get into what it shows. It just shows some air quality. They're going to have a heat map soon enough. But it's kind of neat data if you know what it stands for, but that's for another story altogether.
So, Marcia, Summers made a wildly misleading argument about what Bernie Sanders is saying in terms of retraining traditional energy workers, saying, oh, you know, these people are really smart and skilled. Of course they are. Sanders doesn't want to retrain them because he thinks they're dumb. Sanders just wants to decimate their industry.
Right.
That's why he wants to retrain them.
And I think he's just saying that they already make a good living now. They don't need the government's money to try to learn how to make another living.
That is indeed the point that I think he can make without stretching the truth. All right. Thank you, Marshall. Let's focus on some good news and maybe a little foreshadowing.
All you teenagers watching this movie, what you're looking at right now is yourself in the future.
A congressman from Colorado has a buck wild week, flexing his Twitter fingers and his trigger finger. Next. Congressman Ken Buck is having a week that his Republican base will love. The head of the state GOP was one of 3 no votes in Congress against the coronavirus funding package. And today, he waved a dummy gun around on camera, challenging a Democrat to take it from his hands.
This is how Republican Congressman Ken Buck's week ended.
I have a message for Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke. If you want to take everyone's AR-15 in America, why don't you swing by my office in Washington, D.C. and start with this one. Come and take it.
His office and the state Republican Party have not responded to our questions about this video, which shows Buck briefly swing the gun in the direction of the person recording the video. A basic safety no-no, even if the gun is inoperable and unloaded. This video posted on Buck's social media accounts one day after he called comments made by Democratic New York Senator Chuck Schumer inappropriate and dangerous. During an abortion rights rally on the day the Supreme Court heard an abortion rights case, Schumer name-dropped Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh and said they will, quote, pay the price. It's not the only national news Buck made this week. On Wednesday, Buck was one of 2 members of the House to vote no on the $8.3 billion COVID-19 coronavirus funding because he thought it included billions more than needed with vague plans on how the extra money would be spent. That same day, Buck signed on with every other member of Colorado's D.C. delegation this request to the CDC and Health and Human Services for grant money for coronavirus response. For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
Hi,
Hi there. And you know what? What a beautiful close to a wonderful Friday in Denver. Our high today almost 70, should be in the low 50s. We're going to do this all over again tomorrow in advance of a Pacific storm that will bring a little snow to the mountains on Sunday and maybe some rain to Denver. High clouds coming in tonight. It's a mild night. Overnight low temperatures will be close to 40. Storm track is to the north. Cold air shifting east with southwest winds. Some of that warm air is headed in tomorrow. It's Sunday when things start to change, but this is not a cold storm that's coming our way. Partly cloudy and 36 in the city on this Friday evening. Nice night to be outdoors. Good travel weather into the high country. Great skiing conditions tomorrow. We added the snow on Sunday. Denver close to 70 to start the weekend. Showers to end it. Spring forward daylight saving time begins this weekend. Mild weather for the start of next week with a few more showers coming in Wednesday into Thursday. But the clouds coming in ahead of the storm have made for art in the sky in the early morning hours.
A beat, a dog, and a game of chess.
You got to have 4 eyes to play this game, because you can't see everything with 2 eyes.
We could use this good news after the week that was. Next. For years, you have had a standing reservation here each Friday to share your good news. Our Corky Scholl grabbed his camera and headed for the 16th Street Mall.
My name is Shamu. My good news is the Junkyard Shamu, the Junkyard Percussionist. I am the good news.
Maybe, if that's the way you feel.
My good news is today's another day. I'm still here, you still here as well.
Good going there. Nice going for a man like you.
I come down here on 16th Street Mall daily when it's nice out, and I make people feel good. Healing community through rhythm.
I have a big surprise for everybody watching this TV show. I'm 86 years old. Nobody believes it, no matter who I say it to. You can't be. No, you're not. I'm 86. Look out.
Ain't that right, Stiffy? What's special about Stiffy? When I'm down, he's always around. He saved my life before. He makes me feel needed and wanted. I've never felt any type of love like I had him.
My message is, I am the work. I'm a product of my experiences. That's my good news. It's not the environment that defines who you are. It's the experiences in that environment that does.
But now I'm in check. The game is all over. He has won. I must congratulate him.
That's my good news.
I love that guy. Our producer, Aaron, did not want me to show you what I'm about to show you in a minute, but I think you can handle it. And I can handle your feedback. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today comes with a warning. If you were easily squeamish, or if you don't like to consider that animals both come and go from this world, just a quick 15-second look down before I read your feedback. Because the rest of us are going to consider a photo of nature taken by Alicia in Buena Vista, out by the dog park. One of the dogs wandered in with a little souvenir from the hiking trail nearby. Nope, that'll go in the trash. Thank you very much. Very Colorado, though. Yikes. Peter writes in tonight to say, thank you. You and the next team have been covering coronavirus in an excellent manner, not just peddling news or sensationalizing, just giving us statistics, real answer, sane perspective. And Brittany says, as one of those immunocompromised individuals limiting my time around other people, thank you for saying that our health has value. See you next time. Wash your hands.